So today's recipe is strawberry jam without pectin. I don't know if anybody knows me. I hate pectin. I think it's the worst thing in the world. Our recipe calls for 8 cups of mashed strawberries, 6 cups of sugar, and 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. I, however, add 4 tablespoons of lemon juice because I like the way it tastes that way. Now, this is a very simple and easy recipe. You can't really go wrong here. You're literally going to put all the ingredients. That's what we've done. We put the sugar, the strawberries, and the lemon juice all in the same pot. I've got my heat at medium-high. What we're going to do is we're going to bring this thing to a boil over medium-high heat. You know, we're going to stir it pretty frequently here. And then from there, we are going to just go ahead and reduce the heat to a medium heat, and we're going to cook for a full 45 minutes to an hour. We're going to try to make sure that we are coming back to that and getting it done. Now, there's not going to be a whole lot of conversation here, just things to remember. This is one of those recipes that I put into a Dutch oven. Okay, a Dutch oven, and I don't, you know, a lot of times I will just use a silver sauce pot, okay? A nice big silver sauce pot. Because this is this recipe, like, this is my favorite jamming pot, okay? This thing's great. But I'm a single mom and I can't afford a jam pot, so this long haul cooking here is going to be, you know, just stirring and waiting and stirring and waiting. Okay, so I put it in a Dutch oven, and it is a Dutch oven that has the non-stick on it. In my dreams, I would have like Gotham steel or something, you know what I mean? But money is a thing, so here we are. Now, mashing your strawberries. Some people say you have to use fresh strawberries. Some people say you have to do this, you have to do that. I have ever-bearing strawberries. So I get a huge harvest in the spring, and then first thing in the spring, and then they just continually bear fruit all the way throughout the year. I do not have the ability to just pick them off the plants. I have a tiny little postage stamp of a garden, so I don't have the ability to just pick them off the plants and, you know, keep them until I have enough. You know, there's just me and my son here, so for me, you know, we don't have a bunch of strawberry plants, but the strawberry plants we do have produce a lot of strawberries. So over the season, I will pull them out, core them, put them in the freezer, wait till later. Now, I like to mash them in a food processor, okay? If this was one of those survival situations, obviously I would not be mashing in a food processor unless I had a good handle on, like, solar and, you know, wind turbine energy, possibly even, you know, other modes of energy. But in a situation where you're out there, you don't have a lot of power, you don't want to use the power, you can always wait for those to thaw. Wait for your strawberries to thaw from the freezer and then mash them up with a fork or a potato masher. I'm a lazy person, and we are not in a survival situation, and where I hope to live on a farm someday soon, I do not. I live in the city where power is abundant. So I will throw them in my food processor frozen. I do not like mashing unfrozen strawberries. It's slimy and it's gross. It's just weird. Anyway, so here we are, and just remember that even in a food processor, you're going to get big chunks, and that's what makes it a good jam, is you want multiple sized chunks of strawberry in here. It is going to take a while to come up to temperature, so a lot of this video is just going to be that a lot of the video will be sped up, things like that, and we're just going to kind of go from here. I'm not going to can these right away. Where I will be putting them in the canning jars. All the canning jars have already been boiled. The lids have been boiled. We will get that started. But I'm going to do a separate canning video for all of these jams because most jams are going to use the same canning technique. It's going to be a 10-minute water bath. And so we'll kind of get to that. I will do a separate video on that. In the meantime, enjoy. Alright, so at this point, as you can see, we are boiling. Okay, this is where we're going to reduce it to medium heat. Now, this is a longer cooking process. This is a 45 minutes to an hour cooking process. Always, as always, don't forget, and I did this already, but don't forget to put a plate or a bowl, glass plate or bowl, in the freezer so that you can check and see if it's done towards the end. Now from here, I'm going to be stirring a lot more consistently than I have been, because with it being at a simmer for this long, the sugar can very much burn, and nobody wants burned jam. All right, nobody. So there will be periods of time where I can let it sit for a second, but not really as long as I have to get it up to a boil. When you put it in the jars, you kind of want to put a little something down in there, make sure that it's not, that there's no bubbles in there. It can get in the way of the canning process. So, here we go. Right, so I know this is going to sound weird, but as you can see, we are having a pretty big foaming problem. Most people don't know this, but if you want to prevent that foam, you're going to take 1 tablespoon of butter, and it's going to help keep that foam to a bare minimum. It's something that I should have put in early on, but hopefully we can prevent it from continuing. Yeah, but 1 tablespoon of real salted butter, not margarine, that's gross. Real salted butter will help to minimize the foaming. Okay, so at this point, I've actually I've turned the heat off already. I wanted to show you what this looks like towards the end, what's on that glass plate. I've checked it a couple of times, as you can see, but the camera ran out of memory before I could show you. But this is the consistency. It's still hot, so we're going to go ahead and fill our jam jars now. We have to remember, my jars have already been boiled, okay? And so, you know, don't worry, you know, just once you've boiled your jars, don't touch the inside or the rims or anything like that. Don't forget that with most jams, 99.9% of jam recipes call for 1/4 of an inch of head space, which you need to give it. That's the space between the top of your jam or product and where the lid of the jar will be. That's the space that we give it. That little bit of air is that what it needs to be able to seal. Now, you know, you're not going to get exactly 1/4 of an inch right off the bat. I can say for sure that I'm going to need a little bit more in there. I can kind of eyeball it. They have tools for this, but I've been doing this long enough that I can eyeball it and it's not too much of a problem. But if I think I have too much, I'll definitely go and take it out. You can, before you put the lids on these, you'll be able to you know, make adjustments, because you know it's never an exact science. You never get exactly the right amount for exactly this, you know, correct number of jars, and then you don't have any left over. Really, I usually have a partial jar left over after canning, and then I'll use that immediately. You can't can a partial jar. Not enough headspace and too much headspace are both bad things. I don't want either one of those things to be the case in any jamming situation. Now, also remember that the rules for, you know, everything that you make has a canning time. In the case of most jams, you're looking at 10 to 15 minutes in the canner. And what that does is just not only does it, I probably need a little more, not only does it you know, seal the can, but it also, that heating time helps to, that's probably a little too much, that heating time helps to, you know, get in there and kill all the bacteria and anything that could possibly, you know, cause an issue later. You know, bacteria gets in there, and no matter what you do, if you didn't can it properly, it's going to make someone sick, and you don't want to make people sick. Nobody likes to get sick from, you know, nobody likes food poisoning. It's not an amazing thing. That one's going to definitely need some jelly out of it. We'll put it in the jars that we don't need, or that need less. And then, as you see, we will have a partial jar left over, because that's just how the world works. Can't get an entire jar out of that. So, once you have gotten all of your jam out of your pan, you are going to go ahead and get things measured up and figured out. So that will be our next step. We're going to measure the distance between the top of the pot and the jam we have in it, and we'll go from there. Alright, that's nice and gooey. Okay, so we've got a couple of jars here. These are too full and this one doesn't have enough. So, simple solution to that problem. Simple solution. And then if for some reason it's still not enough, you know, which it will be, because now we're at a 1/4 of an inch here, we need to take a touch out of that one. We can just put it into our jar of stuff we're going to keep for ourselves. And you know, it's important that we not, you know, that we keep that 1/4 inch of headspace. Now, you want to make sure you don't have any bubbles or anything like that in your jar, okay? And again, I think they have tools to do this. I can pretty much eyeball it, but 1/4 inch isn't that much, okay? Look here, 1/4 inch. You know, you've got just a little teeny tiny headspace there. It's not necessary for more, but anything less, it won't seal. So, at this point, we have already boiled our lids. So I use a magnet, all right? I know that they have those kitschy little tools and stuff that you can get. Basically, it's just a magnet. I have these magnets from my refrigerator that I use because you're not touching the inside of anything. You're not, you know, you're just touching the top of that, you know, of that lid. So before you put the lids on, you want to wipe the tops. This is a bamboo paper towel. I'm very environmentally conscious, so we use toilet paper and bamboo paper towels. They're all bamboo. That way we're not killing any more trees than we have to, and bamboo grows like weeds. So now you're going to take your lid and you're going to pop it on there, okay? And then you have your ring. They're a little bit tight, but you just have to work with them. You want it finger tight. As soon as it gives you some resistance, let it go. Now, this particular recipe will give you roughly 5 of the 8-ounce jelly jars. Okay, 5 full ones with, see, finger tight, 5 full ones with just under half left over. And that is a good amount of jam to get done at one time. There are some jams that you don't do in larger batches like this. In my case, I will do large batches of strawberries because it's not, you know, it's not nearly as finicky as, say, a blueberry or pineapple recipe. So you're just going to want to make sure that your lids are on finger tight. Okay? Well, here we have our jars that are all ready for water bath canning. I will be putting these in for 10 minutes in a water bath canning. I will go ahead and do that video on another day.